Okay, now we're going to talk about ratings. Uh, this is categorized as a pre-code film. The film is called Flirtation. When I looked into it a little more, it seems it came out in 1934. But the code is definitely not being enforced here, as you can see. Um, and to take a step back, um, a boxing match, 1897, which was held in Nevada, was watched live by thousands of fans, but it was also filmed. And the show showed the film in New York, ran over 100 minutes, first documentary and it says here feature film ever to be shown, as you can see, with 10 cities. Prize fighting was illegal except in Nevada. Um, but after this film was shown, with its violence and men smashing each other, um, 7 states, as you can see, including New York, all passed a law fining those who showed that film. So this is the first example of cities, governmental authorities censoring films. 1933, Czechoslovakian actress Hedy Lamarr was featured in the film, which was made in Czechoslovakia, called Ecstasy. In the film, she has an orgasm. She also appears nude, full frontal nudity, briefly. This is another film that was shown in the U.S. and got certain parties perturbed, to say the least. By the way, the Hedy Lamarr's life story is very, very interesting. You can see a documentary about her. It's called Bombshell, and it should still be on Netflix. She was a very successful actress in the U.S. She was also an inventor. She invented some devices that helped the Allied forces in World War II, and the hint is this is why it's called Bombshell. There are a couple of meanings for Bombshell. Very inspirational story, however. Here's another one. This is another from 1934. This is one that's played fairly often on old movie channels. It was a big hit film called It Happened One Night, starring two of the biggest stars in the 30s, particularly Clark Gable and Claudette Colbert. Directed by Frank Capra, who directed a number of big hits in Hollywood, one of which is It's a Wonderful Life, which was not a big hit at the time, by the way. He made that after World War II, but has since become a Christmas holiday classic. Couple of things. This is after the code is starting to have an impact, by the way. And you'll notice that there's a single bed, even though it's a couple. And in fact, part of the code's initial code, the Hays Code's ruling, was that you couldn't show a couple in a double bed, or you couldn't show a bedroom shared by a couple that had a double bed in it, because of all the things that might imply. And so you'll see in TV shows and movies of the time, every time couples are shown in the bedroom, they have 2 single beds. Okay. Actually, in this particular story, there's a reason beyond the code that they have 2 single beds, which is that at this part in the story, there is a time when they're not married and they're staying in a motel cabin, which has 2 single beds. But anyway, et cetera, et cetera. Now, one other interesting little factor about this scene. Clark Gable gets undressed, trying to scare Claudette Colbert off a little bit early on. It's a great romance type picture, by the way. And when he gets undressed, he takes his shirt off. There's his bare chest. He does not wear an undershirt. And since this film was very popular, lots of American men saw it and said, "The heck with the undershirt." And the underwear industry went into an uproar as sales plummeted not to recover until after World War II, when the modern T-shirt was ushered in. Prior to this, at this period, T-shirts were the wife-beater T-shirts with the two straps over the shoulders. Anyway, the movies move us, even in our fashion. So the Hays Code, set up in 1930, didn't wield power, but then it linked up with the Legion of Decency, an organization, as you can see, created by the Catholic Church and other religious organizations to combat objectionable material, such as the material we saw with Hedy Lamarr and then with the lingerie scene, etc. For instance, look at here, the original 1947 Miracle on 34th Street, another holiday classic movie, right, with Santa Claus getting all that mail delivered to him. By the end of the movie, was given a B rating because the mother was divorced. Morally objectionable in part. So really, the censors keeping their eyes on things. Ratings changed and had different letters starting in '68. And some of these ratings we still have. The G, M, we don't have anymore. R, we definitely have. X, we definitely still have. 1970s, you can see the M, mature, was changed to parental guidance. Now, the X rating, there were films that came out with X ratings, and there still are, that are not pornographic. They may be graphic, but maybe not pornographic. But what maybe some cases what pornography is in the eye of the beholder. I'm not sure. But pornographic movies had been around ever since people could film things, frankly. But always kind of very much underground kind of phenomenon. And then in the early 70s, they were made in color. They had their own theaters that featured adult movies, and these were triple X movies. The most famous of which is this one called Deep Throat. Triple X rated, but you can see the X on the bottom, adults only. Released in 1972, grossed over $100 million. The lead actress in it, who you see there, whose stage name was Linda Lovelace, her husband, and she was in an abusive relationship, to say the least, was paid $1,250 for her performance. The film grossed over $100 million. Mostly, supposedly, went to the pockets of the mob, who ended up controlling distribution for this film. This film became a cultural phenomenon. You had top officials of the federal government, like Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State, going to see this film. It was talked about constantly on late night television, The Tonight Show. So the phrase deep throat and jokes and humor and whatever about this film were very prominent in 1972. So much so that if you ever see the film All the President's Men, which is about the Watergate phenomenon, the Washington Post reporters who uncovered the Watergate scandal and caused the President Richard Nixon to resign the presidency for the first time ever in our history. Their chief source for information about what was going on in the White House, they could not name him. In fact, he was only named a few years ago after he passed away. They called him Deep Throat in all of their writing about the topic and about their reporting. So, X-rated. So where are we? Well, we've now finished our discussion of ratings, so we're now about to talk about the introduction of TV and get us more into the modern times. And I'm going to stop here and we'll pick up on TV.